Ever catch yourself watching a train go by and think, what's it really like to be the conductor?
Hmm.
Well, today, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into the world of train conductors, and we've got some great insights from RoleCatcher's career guide.
Really interesting stuff.
For those who haven't heard of them, RoleCatcher is it's like a roadmap for your career.
Like that, a roadmap.
Yeah, it gives you the inside scoop on different jobs and what it really takes to succeed. And let me tell you, for train conductors, there's way more to it than just yelling, all aboard!
That's right. It's one of those jobs that seems, pretty straightforward from the outside.
Right.
You see them in their uniform, checking tickets, making announcements.
Yeah, you just figured they keep things running on time, make sure everyone gets off at the right stop. But this guide, this RoleCatcher guide, it really opened my eyes to just how much goes on behind the scenes. It's not just about knowing the timetable, it's customer service, safety protocols.
Oh, absolutely.
They even have to deal with technical stuff sometimes.
It's true. It makes you realize how often we underestimate what goes into certain jobs.
And speaking of underestimating, this RoleCatcher guide does not hold back on the pros and cons.
Oh, they get into it.
They get into it. And some of the pros, those are no-brainers. The pay's good, job security, you can move up the ladder.
Makes sense.
But then they mention travel opportunities as a perk.
Okay.
And it kind of makes you wonder, travel opportunities? What does that even mean for a train conductor?
Right. Are we talking like paid vacations to Europe?
Exactly. Or is it more like, congratulations, you get to drive the overnight freight to Saskatchewan?
Right. And the guide actually addresses that.
Oh, it does.
It does. It explains how those travel opportunities are usually tied to the specific routes you get assigned.
Ah, okay.
So less about jet setting around the globe and more about becoming very familiar with, a certain section of the tracks.
I see. So you might get to know the Chicago to Seattle route like the back of your hand.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes more sense. Though I guess seeing the American West doesn't have quite the same ring to it as, international travel.
Right, exactly.
And the guide also mentions that seniority plays a big role. So the more experienced conductors, they get first dibs on the routes.
Yeah, that's pretty standard in a lot of fields, actually.
Makes sense. So maybe not so much a perk as a potential benefit down the line. But that ties into another thing the guide talks about, something that's definitely not a perk. The hours.
Yeah.
Nights, weekends, holidays. That's the life of a train conductor.
That's true. And that's something you see in a lot of jobs in transportation.
It's the trade-off, right? You're keeping things moving, literally, but it often means sacrificing a traditional schedule.
Absolutely.
Which makes you appreciate the folks who do these jobs even more.
For sure.
Yeah, it really does make you think about, all those folks who are out there keeping things moving, even when it means, like, working crazy hours.
Absolutely.
Okay, so getting back to the RoleCatcher guide, there's this whole section on functions and core abilities, and it breaks down all the key skills you need to be a train conductor. And some of them were, I gotta admit, kind of surprising.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Okay, so they say that 57% of train conductor jobs list monitoring as a key skill.
Monitoring.
Monitoring. Like, that's almost as important as knowing how to, actually drive the train.
That is interesting.
Right. So it got me thinking, what does monitoring even mean in this context? It's not like they're just watching security cameras all day.
Right, right. Well, the guide actually gives you some examples.
Oh, it does.
It does. It talks about, like, observing, receiving, and otherwise obtaining information from all relevant sources.
So it's more than just, like, looking out the window.
Way more. You got to think about it. You're responsible for a train full of people, sometimes for hours at a time.
Right, and anything could happen.
That's right. Delays, personality clashes, you name it.
Yeah, you're basically asking for trouble if you don't stay on top of things.
Exactly. A good train conductor, they're like the eyes and ears of the whole operation.
I like that.
They're watching the passengers, looking for anything unusual, keeping an eye out for safety hazards.
Inside the train and outside, right?
Yeah.
Since they're the ones who can actually see what's coming down the tracks.
Exactly. It's a huge responsibility.
It sounds like it. So it's not just about driving, it's about managing the whole environment, right? Almost like,
Like conducting an orchestra.
Yeah, exactly. Making sure everyone's playing their part, no one's going off key, that sort of thing.
And being ready to jump in and adjust if something unexpected happens.
Which makes me think about that other section in the guide, the one about knowledge areas. Because it's not just about trains themselves, right? They need to know about safety, security.
Oh, absolutely. They even mentioned public safety and security is important for this job.
Right. It's like, how do you handle a medical emergency on a moving train? What if there's a security threat?
Exactly. You got to be prepared for anything. And the guide even points out that this kind of awareness, this ability to, read a room, or in this case, a train car,
Yeah.
it's valuable in a lot of different fields.
That's true, because it's all about anticipating problems before they happen, which is something you can't really teach, right?
Right. It comes with experience from dealing with all those unexpected situations.
And speaking of experience, I thought it was interesting how the RoleCatcher guide lays out the typical career path for a train conductor.
Yeah, they do a nice job with that.
Because it's not like you just become a head conductor overnight, right? There are steps along the way.
Oh, for sure. You got to work your way up,
And as you move up, you start to take on more and more responsibility.
which makes sense. You're gaining experience, building your skills.
Exactly. So you start as an entry-level conductor, you're learning the ropes, helping passengers.
The basics.
Yeah, the basics. And then you might become a junior conductor, and maybe you're doing more routine inspections of the train, or even, mentoring the newer conductors.
So you go from following the rule book to being the one who knows the rule book inside and out.
Exactly. And that's where those leadership skills start to come in.
Right, because now you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for other people's development.
Which is a pretty natural progression when you think about it. Like, think about a chef who works their way up to sous chef, or a junior designer who ends up leading a whole team.
It's the same idea you learn by doing. You master the craft, and then you start sharing that knowledge with others.
And then finally you reach the top, right? Senior conductor.
Exactly, and that's where it gets really interesting. The guide talks about how, at that level, it becomes less about, the day-to-day tasks,
Right.
and more about leadership, about mentoring. You're overseeing the whole boarding process. You're training the new recruits.
So you're like the
The conductor of conductors.
yeah, exactly.
You become the go-to person for anything and everything related to, well, trains.
That's pretty cool, actually. It's like you're not just driving the train anymore. You're shaping the whole culture, right?
Yeah.
Passing on your knowledge, your experience.
Exactly. And that kind of transition from, being the one who does the work to the one who leads the work, it's something you see in a lot of different fields.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, think about like a band, right? You start out as a musician playing your instrument,
Right.
but eventually you might become the band leader. You're not playing as much anymore, but you're guiding the whole sound, the direction.
And that takes a whole other set of skills,
Right.
like leadership, communication, the ability to inspire.
Absolutely. And those skills, those are valuable no matter what you do.
Exactly. It's all about, taking what you've learned, the experience you've gained, and using it to help others grow. That's what makes a true leader.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of valuable resources, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention all the other things RoleCatcher offers.
Oh, right. I almost forgot.
Because we've been talking about the career guide, which is awesome,
Super informative.
but they have a whole suite of tools, right? To actually help you get hired.
That's right. They've got everything from, like, AI-powered resume help.
Really? AI for your resume.
Yeah, it helps you tailor your resume to specific jobs. Make sure you're using the right keywords, highlighting the right skills.
Wow. So it's like having
A professional resume writer on call 24/7.
Exactly.
Exactly. And they've also got, like, interview practice, but with personalized feedback. So you can actually, practice your answers, get tips on how to improve your delivery.
So it's not just like watching yourself on camera and cringing.
No, not at all. You get actual, constructive criticism from, like, career experts.
That's amazing.
It's like having a whole team of career coaches in your corner.
It really makes you realize, like, how much the job market has changed.
Oh, absolutely. It's more competitive than ever.
You got to bring your A game, and it sounds like RoleCatcher can definitely help with that. Okay, so we've gone on quite a journey today.
We really have.
Started out talking about train conductors, and
Uh-huh.
we have ended up, talking about leadership, AI, the whole future of work.
It just goes to show you never know where these deep dives will take us.
That's the fun of it. But speaking of wrapping things up, any final thoughts for our listeners?
What really struck me today was it was how much we can learn about work in general from, a seemingly niche profession like train conducting.
That's a great point, because it's easy to, like, put blinders on
You're right.
and focus on just our own little corner of the world.
Exactly. But when we take the time to, really explore other fields, other industries, we start to see these universal truths, these common threads that connect us all.
And one of those threads, at least from today's conversation, seems to be that, it's not just about the technical skills, right?
Right. It's about those soft skills, those human skills that really make the difference.
The ability to adapt, to communicate, to lead, those are the things that employers are really looking for no matter what the job is.
Absolutely. And those are skills that thankfully anyone can develop.
Exactly. It's all about, being open to learning, to growing, to stepping outside of your comfort zone. So to all our listeners out there, no matter what your career aspirations may be.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those wheels turning.
And on that note, we've reached the end of the line for today's deep dive. A huge thanks to RoleCatcher for providing the roadmap for our journey. Until next time, keep those career goals on track, and we'll see you at the station.